Welcome everybody to EarthX TV stage, and with me I have someone that I like to call as the superstar of North Texas. At least that's the name that I've given him. He's not accepted it yet, but I'm hoping that it would catch on and everybody would start calling him the superstar of North Texas. Hemal Doshi, who's the founder and CEO of Universal Green Group EV Chargers. Hemal bhai, thank you so much for joining us on EarthX TV stage. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent, and thanks for inviting. I mean, it's always great to be part of an organization that I have personally participated for more than 10 years now. With Tremel, he's been out there taking, the lion's share, the lead in this program. But yeah, great to be here, and great to be talking about, the causes which are near to heart for everyone who's attending here today, right?
Absolutely. Now, Hemal bhai, the reason why we are here is that you are very successful at what you do in the clean energy and clean solution space. So we wanted to go not just talk about the business, but also understand more about your journey that led you to the clean energy space, and
Wow.
also what it takes to make it out or cut it out as a successful entrepreneur. There's being a successful entrepreneur, and then you add another degree of difficulty when you operate in the sustainability space, and that's what we wanted to dig deeper into today. So if you could just tell us more
Sure.
about how'd you get started in this space.
And I would actually add, sustainability plays in Texas. Right?
Okay.
You could add that line.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like anything in your life, like you are thirsty into something, right? So back in 99, 2000, when Texas was deregulating in the energy business, I was part of the deregulation business. I helped ERCOT. I was part of the team that did all the deregulation. So generation side, distribution side, and retail side of the electric business. So we worked in how the entire market works in the background. So while helping them, you yourself, you get acquainted, you learn all this ins and outs of how this electric market works in Texas. And once you get ins and out, then you figured out, okay, what's the next step for you? So the logical next step was, let's get into a business. And generation sounded like a cool thing at that time, that, hey, I want to be in generation business. So we put up our own solar farms in Texas. So we own and operate a bunch of solar farms in Texas. And that was our beginning of how we got into the renewable space. But to be successful, I mean, obviously there are products, there are customers, there is a process, but you have to follow, you have to make it financially sustainable. So our goal from the day one was that, hey, I am in this business, but let's be sustainable. I mean, I don't just want to rely on some subsidies. I don't want to rely on government handouts. How do I make it work, right? So we came up with a motto called "Go Green, Save Green." I mean, that's the motto of my company. I mean, you gotta help people to save green to go green. You just cannot be that, okay, I am, I'm some kind of just green guy, right? And we found a niche where we are able to provide those kind of services and save real dollars and cents to not only the customers, but also for our company, where when we sell the electricity to the utility. So we sell a lot of electricity to local power companies. We ended up with the long-term power purchase agreements with those guys. And it's a steady stream of income for us for 25 years. So if I tell you that, hey, I will get you an income for 25 years, right, would you like it or not, right? So again, you go into those kind of businesses where there is a stability of revenue, there is a stability of net income, right? So,
And you're also doing good. And you
Yeah,
also
and-
go
and-
home feeling that you're doing something that's purposeful.
So just to give a perspective, I started driving electric car maybe like 8 years back. It was really nasty looking Nissan Leaf. It was like buggy. So one of my friend, he just gifted me a car.
Yeah.
Like, just you drive, right? I'm like, okay, let me try. I didn't like it. I mean, you look at the car, you're like, no, I'm not driving this, right? But when you drive that thing, right, you feel it, oh man, this is fun to drive. So without aesthetics, that car was good to drive. Aesthetically, it was very unpleasant and all those things. So it took us a time. Then we moved into Teslas. We moved into now Cadillac. That are all. So it's been more than 4 years. I don't even have a gas car at my home, and it's not because that I like this or that. It's just convenient to drive electric car. I mean, you charge at home. If you go out of town now, so one of the issue that we saw was there wasn't enough charging stations in all across. So that was our self-experience that got us into, okay, well, that looks like an opportunity. It's fun for me to drive. Let's see if I can solve the problem, right? So that's how I got into this EV charging business. And we are more like building the nationwide network. So if you look under the Navy program, we are number 5 in the nation for all the deployment that we are going to do. So it's a lot of work. But if you look in how many gas stations are there in the US, so just to come to certain sanity of how many of this are required, I mean, I'll say it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight, but all of these businesses, right? Whether we got into generation side, whether we got an EV charge, it all came from a self-experience. Okay, let's just do something in this one, looks like an opportunity. And when it makes sense to you, it does make sense to other guys too, right? I'm a normal guy. I mean, I'm not something special that I come with $1 billion or whatever, some fund or nothing, right? So we started with like zero. So if it makes sense to me, then most of the guys, it will make sense. So let's just figure it out how to make it work, right? So that's always a goal.
So you're saying that anything and everything that you did, it was that while you were involved in a project or while out of personal pain point or experience, you identified an opportunity and then you decided to just go for it. And obviously, I'm sure you would have done a bit of calculation and studied the business model a little bit. But before that, you used 3 terms that I wanted to double click on or zoom in on. So first one that you used was generation, that you said sounded nice, and that's why you decided to focus on generation. The second term that you used was distribution. And then the last term that you used was retail. So for the uninitiated over here, or just for someone who just understands this at a very high level, if you could just walk us through what do you mean when you say generation, what do you mean by when you say distribution, and what do you mean by when you say retail?
All right, so it's like a 101 kind of thing, like electric 101. So there's a generating power plant somewhere that generates electrons. Then there are transmission lines and so the big lines that you see outside, those are the transmission and distribution lines. And the retail side is if you're in a dereg market, like, so if you're an Encore, you can buy power from Green Mountain Energy, Direct Energy, but there are like more than 300 plus retailers in the market. So they are actually the guys who buy the electrons for you in a wholesale and give you in a retail. So that's how they're retailers, right? So it's segmented out in 3 parts, at least in Texas. There are other segments in other states, but it's focusing on Texas. So these are the 3 basic segments. Now, if you look at all the 3 segments, generation is something that you can control, because it's a power plant at a location. Transmission and distribution is you need to have right of way. It's like you're pulling the wires from West Texas to Metroplex, from Metroplex to wherever, right? So that has to be involved with a huge amount of some kind of government support, because without them you are not going to find right. I mean, just think about this. They're trying to build a high-speed train between Dallas and Houston. They are not going anywhere without government support. They still work in progress from last 10 years, right? So you need the government support to do that. Now on the retail side is more mathematical modeling. You're buying a wholesale, trying to figure out on retail side. So when we look at the like the landscape, we figured out that okay, generation side is something that is more under our control, that we can manage rather than other 2 areas. So that's how we entered into the generation side of the business.
Okay, and so generation is kind of like manufacturing, wherein like you're producing power or you're manufacturing the power. And then if I was to take a traditional business wherein now that you have something that you have manufactured, you need to distribute it or send it to where people need to consume it the most. So sometimes you'll get a freight ship or air cargo or these trailers or trucks that will distribute your good from one end to the other, and then finally it would end up in a supermarket or in a store where people would then go and consume or buy that. So similarly, when it comes to energy or electricity, there are people that are focusing on producing power, and then there are people who are focusing on distributing that power so that they can get it as close as possible to you. And then there are people obviously that take that from that last mile node or the warehouse and then bring it to all your homes. And then when it comes to consumption, it is residential, so personal side consumption, and also businesses and other manufacturing companies
side,
who are consuming the power. So you've spoken about how generation largely is easier to control, whereas transmission requires a lot of permits and it's very capex heavy, and it can take a very long time to build that infrastructure. Have you noticed any changes in the consumption pattern in terms of how people are consuming power, whether it's easy to be able to predict what the consumption would be? What are the consumption trends like? Are you able to speak a little bit to that?
No, definitely. So as a consumption portion, historically, it used to be that the consumption of electric power will grow in tandem with the growth of GDP. So if you have like, let's say Texas grows, GDP will grow by 2%, then the power consumption will increase by 2%. So that was the story kind of like pre-COVID. So now post-COVID, so now we have added few more items in a mix. So one is there is a huge amount of Bitcoin mining that showed up in a state. There is a huge amount of data centers that are showing up in a state. Transformation of transportation from carbon-based to electron-based, that's going on. So along with the GDP growth, now you're seeing like actual more demand coming from 3 different areas which are huge consumers of power at this point of time. So just to predict the growth, it used to be 2%, now they're growing at, we're looking at the consumption should double within a period of next 15 to 20 years, so that's a compounded growth of more than 10%, like 8 to 9% year over year. And when you think about it, now it doesn't sound too big, but like when you need like so much transmission lines to add on to that one, you need all the distribution, right? So the infrastructure has to be built up or to caught up to support this kind of growth. And that's a challenge and an opportunity both, that how we can manage this growth by managing the existing assets and then creating a new assets that are more, like more in line with where the growth centers are going to be.
And I just wanted to also talk about that point. You're saying that there's so much economic progress and demand, energy demand, because energy equals GDP or progress. No matter what you do, what business you start, no matter what home you buy, it needs energy. And so I just wanted to also quickly speak to the point wherein there is an opportunity for all sorts of energy to coexist. So whether it's coming through thermal sources, or whether it's coming through natural gas, or whether it's coming through clean energy, because there's so much demand out there, and there's no way any one single source of energy would be able to meet that demand.
So this is a good time to ask like a question to all of you guys. Have you guys ever seen electron? Electron. Have you seen electron? No electron, right? No. So if you have not seen the electron, do you know what color of electron is? Do you know what is the color of electron? So the reason you don't know is because nobody knows, right? So the reason I was asking this question, so whether electron comes from natural gas, it comes from solar, it comes from wind, it comes from nuclear, it comes from thermal. Nobody knows what this electron came from, right? So once you put it in a mix, then it's all same. Electrons are electrons, right? I mean, it doesn't differentiate between source A, B, C, and D, right? So to answer the question, we always say the energy is a mix. It's not a one alone item, right? So you cannot have energy as that I only need from coal, I only need from natural gas, right? So it's going to be a mix of it. We call it an energy mix, and in Texas we are blessed with everything. I mean, you just look at Texas, right? You're blessed with natural gas, I mean, everywhere. You go to Panhandle, if you guys are local from Texas, if you ever go to Panhandle, I mean, the wind blows, I mean, it just blows very hard. If you are in, let's say you are near refinery area, right in Houston, all those things, right? So you will also get a lot of LPG, liquefied petrol gas, and all this kind of thing that comes out of refinery that will help you to do it. That the fracking will also generate a lot of hydrogen, right? So we say that it's going to be energy mix, and you want to be an energy mix because everybody has a backup plan in their life. Why will energy be just one guy, right? I mean, you need to be a backup of a backup of a backup. But so the question is not about the mix. The question is, how do you manage the mix? I mean, that's a pertinent question that everybody has to answer it. And a lot of discussion is going on about how to manage that mix. But energy is going to be mixed, and nuclear is also going to be part of it. I mean, all of it, right? I mean, the only one that's getting out in Texas is coal. And coal is replaced by natural gas, right, pretty much for all the power plants. But other than that, I mean, it's a mix.
And so you spoke about how it's an energy mix, and using the different sources of energy, you are able to meet the demand of the consumers. Do you see any innovation or technology coming along that would allow us to perhaps predict how much energy consumers will be consuming, and how we can distribute that energy to them, or perhaps any changes to the pricing model in terms of how one charges for electricity?
Yeah, sure. It's a very interesting market. So everybody knows about Nasdaq, everybody knows about S&P, right, all this kind of thing. But the biggest trading happens in the energy market. So energy trading, where the pricing comes 15 minutes. So it's one of the biggest trading desks that you can ever have. So in a real time right now, and if anybody remembers Enron, I don't know, like one of the guys, so the successful part of the Enron was energy trading business. They messed up in the other side, but trading was still successful. And so as we speak, right, the market pricing comes real time. So the price discovery, it does happen real time. So because of the price gyration that happens, the forecasting models are the must. So if I'm industrial guy, I'm a residential guy, ERCOT do aggregate all the energy consumptions at a nodal level. So there are nodes in ERCOT, and nodes, if you look at the substations around, they kind of become a nodal in Texas. And so they do measure the energy consumption at the node and see what the particular demand is. So there is a demand monitorization that happens, but the forecasting models are pretty solid. But they are also redoing now with the data centers and all those things. I mean, that was not part of their normal forecasting model. But if you are a statistics major, you will have a huge amount of jobs in those areas. People won't know that. If you're math and stats major, those are the jobs that you will end up into now in the energy sector if you're looking for it.
And when you talk about trading, you're obviously talking about people, the distributors or the energy aggregators, wherein there are companies who purchase energy from different sources, and that's the price that's the price at which they would buy the energy at. And now, are they allowed to change the price that they charge to the consumer, or does that stay fixed?
It depends on how your contracts are written. So residential contracts are normally fixed price. Industrial contracts, you can put a stipulation on the price variation. So again, it depends on how your contracts are written on the end side. But you have contracts from real-time pricing to a fixed pricing and everything in between. So depending on what your level of risk appetite is, you can select what kind of plan that will work for you.
And so what I'm hearing is that, leaving aside the benefits, that you're not emitting as much carbon out there if you're using clean energy, sustainable energy, green energy, whatever you'd like to call it. So I'm just going to leave that portion aside.
Okay.
But from a business case point of view, or from a money point of view, not just for you as a business owner, but for someone who is perhaps using clean energy in an AI data center, solar energy or wind energy to power their data center. Does that make business sense for them to, compared to, let's say, other sources of energy?
It does. So just think about it, right? The input cost of solar and wind is zero. So it's all capital costs up front. So if you go to any other source, then your constant input cost that keeps on, so your cost of natural gas will keep on changing, your cost of coal, or whatever you're using.
So when you're saying capital cost, it's the initial cost to set up the facility or infrastructure or whatever you have there.
You have,
so
right?
You have to spend it once, and then I'm sure you might have tiny bit of maintenance, ongoing maintenance.
It's very minor.
Very negligible.
Very minor. And so what you do, you take the capital cost and amortize over a period of time.
You divide it over
Yeah,
a
over
number,
period of time,
number of years,
number of years
and then
that you
if you
have.
were to look at what it costs you per year, it would end up being way cheaper than
Yeah,
the...
so now you look at that.
Okay.
Now you figured out, okay, this is my cost of electricity. Now that cost of electricity is never going to change for 25 years.
Yeah.
Now anybody in the Metroplex over here, few years back, I'm talking like just pre-COVID, all right? The wholesale pricing of electricity was $25 a megawatt. Right now they are selling at like 35, 45. So you're like 40% increase in electric. So if you ever look at your electric bills, they're all gone up by at least 30, 40% for sure. But imagine if you would have that price locked down at $25 per megawatt. Now it doesn't matter where your electric prices are now. I mean, you are all getting at the same price, right? So businesses like certainty. Even if the cost of electric is a little bit high upfront, but over the period of time, you are going to come down that, okay, I can predict my cost structure, my electric cost is fixed, and historically the prices have always gone up. I have never seen any product where, other than electronics per se, right, the prices come down. I mean, they, like commodity prices, they stay or they go up. So period of time you're going to do good, but certainty, right? So if I'm paying, if it's costing me like 12 cents a kilowatt hour, right? Then in my business model, I can put that number without any variation. That's one less headache to maintain in life, and I'm good to go for my business.
In a world where everything else is volatile right now, that's one cost that you can control.
You can just control, right?
That's perfect. And so would there ever be a time where you would actually see abundance of energy because of clean energy or nuclear? And that you would see a dip in the prices or the pricing curve going down, because you're saying that historically prices always gone up.
Go up. So commodity prices always go up. So we were supposed to be a surplus, and then suddenly data centers and all these things show up, and now the consumption is far exceeded where like where we were planning for generating capacity, right? So can we again catch up? Answer is yes, right? In Texas, I mean, I'm pretty much all the states in the US, right? If there is enough demand, the business always shows up with supply. So it's like a supply-demand kind of issue. And we will catch up more depending on, there's some regulations going on which is making some things hard, some things easy, right? And I keep on telling everyone, right, that you want to get politicians and politics out of your life and out of your energy and all of those things, right? Just get you want to get them out of it. So if you make the market forces work on it, I mean, it's going to be all fine, right? It's just that like suddenly you have some policy issues and this and that kind of keeps on impacting. But other than that, I mean, I just don't see why. As a Texas, I mean, we don't have an issue with land. We don't have an issue with anything. I mean, I just think about it. How many of you guys have gone to West Texas? I'm pretty sure. Oh man, how much land is out there? I mean, a lot, right? So we never have a land issue, right? There is never a land issue in state of Texas.
And so I just wanted to you and I picked up on you saying that data centers have directly affected the demand. Now I just wanted to zoom in on that a little bit. So when you say data centers, anytime we send an email or anytime we're uploading something to a Google Drive or Microsoft SharePoint, or anytime we are asking ChatGPT to turn our pictures into Studio Ghibli or a Muppet style photo, that requires energy because there are computers in a farm, a server farm, and there are servers and storage out there that need to be powered 24/7, that need to be cooled because they generate a lot of heat, and that requires energy. That's what is driving the demand of energy at present. And so that's what you mean by the data centers that are coming in, because of course these data centers are powering AI, they're creating jobs, they're bringing in investment into the state, but they are also asymmetrically increasing the demand on the energy, and that demand needs to be met. And that's why previously there may have been an energy surplus, but now we are playing catch up.
No, we are, and so I'm going to give one more example, right? So everybody knows that you can type in Google, and but do anybody know how much it costs to do a query in a Google? It takes like 0.5 watts for every query that you throw in Google. Now imagine how many query happens in a day in the Google environment, right? AI, depending on kind of whether you are looking for more graphics or not, it can take up to 2 to 3 watts, up to 5 watts per output, right? It doesn't sound a lot, 5 watts, but when you multiply 5 watts by millions of those kind of things, like it just add up, right? And whoever drives Tesla, right? So Tesla, anybody driving Tesla? So if you drive a Tesla, they have something called a full self drive, like a self-assisted drive, right? So they take a constant pictures. It's a camera-based system right now, and they analyze those pictures in real time. They crunch the data, and they give a command whether to stop, move left, move right, whatever those commands are, right? It takes extreme amount of computing power to do all that. And that computing power is not in your car. I mean, your car has a limited amount of computing power.
Yeah.
The computing power actually happens a lot in a server.
Wow.
So now you're looking into like a lot of those computing needs, right? And even if the computing that happens in a car, that needs to be charged by the battery, like the charging, what do you do in your home or your public charging, whatever you do, right? So there is a huge need of processing that's required, that's going on nowadays. And as we kind of move towards an era where everything is AI, right? I mean, you cannot miss a word anywhere talking without the word AI. I mean, I
think all joking aside, I made myself a promise that I'm going to think for myself and not ask ChatGPT a lot of questions, because the other day I tried to think on my own and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I got to open up ChatGPT and let it think for me. But from what I'm hearing, the future of energy is super bright, pun intended. And we are so grateful that you are in the space and you're leading clean energy solutions. And I hope and I wish all the best to you. And thank you for having us and explaining to us a little bit of how what your journey has been, how the industry operates, and what the future of the industry would be. So thank you for joining us on EarthX TV stage. Thank you, guys.